Today we're going to make a peanut butter truffle brownies. It's a little bit of a variation from the chocolate mint brownies that I make. It's the chocolate brownie on the bottom, and instead of doing a mint layer, I'm going to do a peanut butter layer, and then it's a nice creamy chocolate topping. So to start, I'm going to grease my 9x13 pan with Crisco. Again, some people use the aerosol cooking spray, but I just use the shortening. And we'll just have that well greased. And I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, so that's all set to go. So this is in a three-step process. So the first step, it's a one bowl process, which I really like. It's nice and easy. So I've got my stand mixer here. So we're going to add 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of flour, 1 stick of butter. And I've had these all at room temperature, so the butter is soft. So you'll want it softened, or if you take it out of the fridge, you can just pop it in the microwave for a little while to soften it. 4 eggs, and I've got those all set, all cracked, and they all go in at the same time. And then we're going to add 1.5 cups of chocolate. I just buy bottled syrup, and then just pour in 1.5 cups. And then you just mix it until it's well mixed. So I'm going to do that now. It's going to be noisy. And your flour might fly around a little bit. Mix it on medium. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can use a hand mixer, or you can also use a KitchenAid mixer too. To our greased pan. This is a little bit more time consuming than when I do my chocolate chip blonde brownies. That's in a one bowl, and they're all set to go. But if you want, a little bit of a variation with some frosting and a filling, it's nice. And I also did these brownies for an event that was held in Marshfield a couple of years ago, and she wanted to have a raspberry filling. So I just made, instead of the mint, I actually added a raspberry liqueur to it to make the raspberry filling. In that case, when you're doing the mint, you're going to add some food coloring. So to get a different color, then you can just add a little bit of food coloring too. Okay, so that's all done. So I'm going to put this in the 350 degree oven, and it's going to bake for about 25 minutes. Okay, now the next layer is going to be the peanut butter, which is almost like peanut butter frosting. So we're going to have 1/3 of a cup of peanut butter. And I do use a brand name, Skippy or Jif. I found that when I have baked with a generic peanut butter, it really doesn't turn out quite as well. So I one time learned that the hard way, and I ended up having to basically throw out a whole recipe of peanut butter crunch balls that I was making at Christmas time. They were very labor intensive, and the peanut butter just didn't make them taste right. So I like to use Jif or Skippy. Either one is fine. So I put 1/3 of a cup of peanut butter, creamy peanut butter, and then 1/3 of a cup of butter, and that's 6 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to beat that just until it's smooth. Okay, now we are going to add 1 1/3 cups of powdered sugar, and this is where it gets messy, of course. That will be flying around a little bit. Mix that up. Then we're going to add about it calls for about 1.5 teaspoons of milk. So I'm going to kind of put my hand on here. And then if you find that it just isn't soft enough to spread, then you can just add a little bit more milk. So we'll just start that on low so that your peanut butter doesn't go all over. You're going to tap it down a little bit. See if that's the right consistency. Yeah, you want it just so that it's soft enough to be able to spread. So I'm just going to add a little bit more since I have that out there. Just beat that up again, and it'll be good. I have some friends who have ordered the mint chocolate bars from me, and I decided to try doing these peanut butter bars one time. And her husband said that they were now his favorite bars. So if you like peanut butter, I think you would like these. Okay. And then we'll just stir this around a little bit. And it doesn't look like very much for your pan, but it is kind of rich. So when you make it, you really wouldn't want much more than that. My pan of bars, which I just happened to have done. I was making bars for an event the other day, and I wasn't totally happy with how they turned out, so I figured this would be a good excuse to use them for this show today, because you have to have them, the extra ones made so you can, demonstrate doing the frosting. And I know I must have some kind of a fundraiser coming up at school, or I can take the bars, and the kids always enjoy freebies whenever there's a time that you can give the students something to eat. They always enjoy that. It makes them feel special. So these will come in handy. Okay, so I'm just going to frost these bars. As you can see, your layer of fudge is just going to be about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch, and I had made them. And with this recipe, it typically the fudge part will kind of come away from the sides. So sometimes if it starts to break apart, while they're still warm, just starting to cool, I'll take a sharp knife and kind of smooth it away or back, together, so that you get the smooth effect. But this pan, however, I had gotten a couple of new pans, and I really don't like this. It's a real dark type of aluminum, and it tends to bake a little bit hotter, and I just wasn't happy with how they turned out. So I'd rather have just my other lighter aluminum rather than this dark pan. So you just frost them like that. You can do a little bit of a design if you want, but then we're going to be covering it up with our third layer, which is the chocolate frosting. Okay, so this layer is done. Sometimes if it needs to cool down before you put the chocolate frosting glaze on top, then I'll stick it in the fridge. But this should be fine for the next step. So the final step now is going to be a cup of chocolate chips, and I like Nestle's chocolate, but I also use other kinds of Hershey's as well. So either one is fine. So it's a cup of chocolate chips, and then 6 tablespoons or 3/4 of a stick of butter. And I've also had that sitting out, so it's softened up. So I'm going to stick that in the microwave, and we're going to start it on high for 1 minute. And you want to make sure that all of the chocolate chips are all smooth, because otherwise it's going to make the top of your frosting kind of bumpy. So we're going to stick that in the microwave on high, start it for a minute. And then we'll stir it, and then usually it takes about another 30 seconds or so when it's ready then to frost. And then after I have them frosted, because it is going to be real runny and real soft, then I'll put it in the refrigerator then to harden up. And very often I'll make them the day before, so I'll make them the night before and then have them ready to go in the morning. And then because your top glaze is going to be pretty hard, then I'll let them sit out until you're able to cut them. Okay. I'm going to grab another little spatula. For a Christmas present, my son Matthew had my name for Christmas this year. We decided to do something different, and we decided, the kids, all of us, decided that we don't really need much other than enjoying our company with each other at Christmas time. So we decided it'd be fun just to draw names, and Matthew had my name. So he gave me these wonderful little spatulas, which I really like, and they come in really handy when you've got the peanut butter jar to clean out, or you want to make sure that you get everything out of your container, whether it's your frosting or oil, whatever you happen to be trying to get out so that you don't waste anything. So I thought he did a really nice job on shopping for me for Christmas. I'm going to take another spreader, and because this is very soft, it might go over run over the edge, which is fine, because then when you cut your bars, then you'll have some extra fudge topping on the outside. It's almost like a ganache, but there isn't milk in it. It's the butter instead of the milk that makes it so nice and smooth. And then when I get this finished, then I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator for it to get solid, and then we'll be ready to cut them. So we're all set to cut. And as I said, these bars are really rich. So I typically, especially if we're doing an event for a wedding, we typically will just cut them into like about a 1 inch really by 1 inch, because they're that rich. So if you're used to having a big, fudge brownie that are, 2 inches by 3 inches or something, if you had one that size, you'd probably feel a little bit sick by the time you finished eating it. So anyway, so we're just going to put them on our tray here. We'll just do a couple more. One thing I do when I make these, I don't freeze these. Many of the bars, that you make, you don't have any problem with freezing them. Although I will make the bottom part ahead, which comes in handy because then you'll have the base made, and then you just have to, do the frosting. So you can do that ahead. But I would caution you not to make these ahead and then freeze them, because the frosting sometimes will bloom, so it gives it kind of a funny lighter brown, look to it. So if you're going to keep the nice dark chocolate color, then you might want to just make them, and then I keep them in the refrigerator. So I hope you've enjoyed today's segment of making our version of our chocolate mint bars, only with the peanut butter filling. So from a slice of heaven, happy cooking.